This movie star who hails from Hyderabad, he made his debut in Telugu films, but we in Mumbai know him so much better. Perhaps he's best known for his role as Dev in the Bahubali franchise. Rana Dagubatti is joining us on ET now, and it's great to have you with us, Rana. You know, what many people over here in Mumbai are perhaps not as aware about is your family's legacy in film production with Ramanaidu Studios, and of course, your own personal interest in visual effects. But before we get down to any of that, Rana, firstly about your wedding bells, they're ringing. So congratulations in order.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while. I'm glad to connect, but I wish there were better times. Yes. I'm just wondering at the outset, Rana, how the lockdown has impacted the studio business. There were news floating around that your dad, Suresh Babu, is planning to turn Ramanaidu Studios into a gated community and concentrate on your new studio in Visakhapatnam. What's the truth to that? Because right now I'm thinking that a lot of Bollywood actually wants to shoot in the south because that's where the facilities are up and running.
What is gated community? Whoever told you that?
I don't know. There is this buzz that is going around. A gated community is a residential complex.
No. That's rubbish.
No.
Complete rubbish. First, the studio properties are built to be studio properties. And that's how they will remain for as long as the company continues to be. We've been running the company now for 50 years. I don't think anything is going to change now. It is a very different time. It is a very challenging time, more so when we start going forward and doing things. The idea is, obviously now cinema has taken the biggest beating in terms of theatrical business. Now that'll be a while before it gets back on its feet, and everyone's doing all the right things that are possible for that. But the growth on content and the amount of content people start consuming has gone like triple or quadruple the time since everybody's been in lockdown. So all of us don't have enough to watch, though it's on, whether it's on Netflix, Disney, whatever it is, right? We always run out of things to watch. And that we're going to see a huge rise in terms of how much OTT content is going to be. And coming to the studio business, the studio is always a license for content and films to be produced. And now, earlier, the studios have always behaved because we've been a production house where a large part of the studio used to be our film work, and then there was very little of customer support in terms of clients coming in. But now with the scale of how things are growing, we have a second studio. Now we have a third studio that's under construction. And we really want to equip for building as much. And Hyderabad as a city itself is very convenient to shoot. First, like in California, it's got flat light most of the month. So everybody's shooting outdoor. That's pretty simple. There's enough land that's accessible very, very close to cities. So if anybody is trying to create big sets, there's studio properties that are gated, whether it's ours, Annapurna, whether it's Ramoji. There's enough and more infrastructure that's available in Hyderabad already. We're trying to scale that up in different states as well. And now with this current situation, we just understand that locking an entire unit together from one shot and getting a project done is probably the ideal way of how things should go. So everyone's kind of quarantined for a certain amount of time. Whether if the studio becomes that, then it's like one big happy family going and completing a project in one shot. So the studio kind of is providing everything for that. Films of all scales, because right from Bahubali to films that have budgets of 1 crore and a half actually release in Telugu. So the idea is just equipping ourselves to make big cinema. And the more you go with spectacle cinema, the bigger and bigger they get, the more and more they come back into studios to get them made. So I think it's going to be a big rise for the studios and the others once things get back into operation, because the theatrical business will want only big spectacle films or big star films once things open back up, because they want to celebrate every weekend. That is going to be very, very precious for them. The OTT will want constant content, and you want to keep it in control. The studio is the only way you actually do it. And post this COVID situation, we also realized that there are a lot of properties that used to earlier rent out, that were personal spaces, that the studios or the productions won't have access to anymore, because you don't want constantly people coming into personal spaces. So I think all of that will start moving more and more into studios. So that's pretty much it. In this lockdown, we've just been building teams, building infrastructure, and yeah, just getting ready to shoot. That's it.
Well, so it sounds like, Rana, you're getting more future ready, a post-COVID scenario. But the reality of our times, the currency of our situation is that the numbers are rising. Right. And at this point in time, you're looking at Maharashtra as a state is letting people shoot, but there are such heavy restrictions that have been placed. And the buzz is that many of these productions, because the need for content is humongous right now, many big films are stuck by way of being in production, being on the floor. They need to finish what they started off. And they are choosing, I was speaking to Sanjay Gupta as well, he's choosing to go to Ramoji. Is a lot of this happening? Are a lot of Bollywood productions moving south? Is that something that you've noticed? Because they're saying that they're making a beeline for it. How much truth is that?
See, one is, it's always been traditional where a lot of Hindi films have shot in Hyderabad, and that's not new. One is, for the last 7 or 10 years, the growth of or want for content or want for bigger spaces for cinema has increased. And a city like Bombay, it's not even a cinema play really, it's a real estate world where if you wanted to make Bahubali in Bombay, there's no space that we can afford to use that's even reasonably close to the city. That we can create these things. Now, so for that simple purpose, and at the same time, the cost of living in Hyderabad is much cheaper than Bombay. So whether holding an entire unit, whether it's stay for people, whether it's the food, whether it's and also the language. See, Hyderabad speaks Hindi as much as they speak Telugu, so it's not that way. It's kind of the melting pot in terms of culture and language.
Right.
So I think it's a definitive growth, and see, one is we're also in a very weird, strange time, right? See, and like any other industries at this point, everyone is stuck with the big projects, stuck with stuff that's in the pipeline. There are many films that don't have an option of OTT as an exit. So I think, given all these scenarios, we just need controlled environments to shoot, whether it's in Bombay or whether it's in Hyderabad. The film crew will specifically here. There've been a lot of shoots, but it's always been television and OTT in film at great scale. I know there's a film called Crush that's been started filming in the studio now. But the idea is, I'm saying they've been very careful. So it's like anybody has to be, even as a human being, you have to be. I think that consciousness is kind of set in, and you want to rise back up and figure out how to do things. It's definitely a dangerous time. It's a time that's very worrying. It's a virus that's extremely worrying, but there's some point you got to get back to it, right? And we just have to find the best ways to do it. Are we going to stop doing this? No. So we just have to find the best methods, and I think reacting fast at lightning speeds to getting your projects done, I think is a must. So you can't sit back and wait for many people to do things. It's you got to reinvent. You're the entertainment business, and I think right now it's each man to their own. Build facilities that are right, and stop worrying whether we're in Hyderabad, we're in Bombay. See, that's a culture that I had for the last 10 years. It didn't matter whether I was doing a Hindi film, Telugu or Tamil, right?
Right.
I think that's the culture that we really find the best places to make our films and just make them.
But in terms of the turnaround, when you compare what Telugu and Tamil cinema is doing in terms of trying to get back into action, as it were, how do you see them compare, the southern film industry compare with what Mumbai is trying to do or is able to do with the restrictions?
See, one is, first, you can compare all the cities because the population of Bombay or the proximity that people stay in Bombay is much closer than Hyderabad or in Chennai also in that sense. See, here it's, you guys are bound by sea from one side. So that's how much the city can grow, right? And obviously it's the financial capital. It's everything, not entertainment, but everything large that happens in this country has a relevance in Bombay, and definitely from a financial standpoint.
Sure.
So that's a much bigger piece. See, today it's the bigger you are, the harder it gets to get back up. So I think it's just Bombay just needs to use the support of everything that's available in India, and then just wait till everything clears back. See, that's more a city thing, and we just got to react to how the city and the governance is giving us guidelines and saying, here you go, okay, we can do this. let OTT start. Television can begin, let television begin. If cinema like this can start, cinema of with less characters and nature can begin. So I think that we just have to take that priority order based on guidelines of how other industries, other factories are working, because it's ultimately it's the same across the board, right?
No, so there is the infrastructure side of it, which is, of course, the kind of studios that you bring to the table, like Ramoji brings to the table, which is one reason that you have the crew in a closed environment and they're not returning home every day. So it becomes easier to control any kind of infections that are likely to happen. That's one side of the story. The other side, of course, is the kind of rules that apply. Like people over the age of 65 can't be on the set, whether it's talent, technicians, and that puts its own kind of pressures on resumption of shoots. So when you compare those two scenarios as well, how do the two industries, the Southern film industry and Bollywood, compare?
See, it's. I think that applies to everybody, right? That's human and virus. So that's whether you're in Bombay, Hyderabad, it's the same thing that it's going to do to you. Now, see, I think with the way we're looking at things and the reason we were able to get back a little bit as a company and as an industry a little bit in that sense was we just took on priority, right? Okay, now if this is not allowed, we don't do that. If this is allowed, let's just do what's allowed, right? See, the beauty of content today, or the democratic nature of content, is so much that you can make what you want. See, today I'm doing an animation film. I'm doing an animation talk show that I'm working on. Now, this is something that I never did before. But the idea is everyone finds a new job, everyone finds something that's interesting and that can keep you creatively engaged for the creative people. And ultimately, there is still buyers. There is still the OTT. There is still broadcast. All of them are still running and tight, right? So I think it'll just give rise to a new, interesting bunch of content for the next 12 months.
So with the kind of content that could come about, I'm wondering what you are concentrating on. There is a lot of talk of Aatmanirbhar Bharat. And I'm just wondering what the entertainment industry in India can really solidly bring to the table of Atmanirbharta, of self-reliance, because there has been so much that has been talked about in the past, whether it's visual effects, since the time that Avatar became so big and the possibilities existed, that this is a great hub for visual effects. You've been part of that industry. You started your career within that space. Is that something that can grow exponentially if that much more is done towards Atmanirbharta? Or do you think that there are films, the kind that you've been involved in, Bahubali, remarkable in the sense of having a global reach? Do you think that Indian exports of films can grow if the accent is on self-reliance?
See, one is exponentially is a word you used, and I think that's pretty bang on. See, one is, this has always been what we've been working on. It's just been accelerated faster because of the situation. Animation is something that I think will take off at a very, very fast level, because that's something you can do high quality with while sitting at home. And it doesn't require production, doesn't require sets. It all happens in a computer and comes back out again. So I think the growth of animation has always been in pockets in India, but now I think you're going to see a really big spurge of that. I know a lot of animation features being commissioned. I know a lot of shows being commissioned on OTT and others. And I myself am doing a talk show, and there's a music video that's coming out in a couple of weeks that's animated. So I think, see, ultimately a storyteller will choose a format, right? Whatever is available, you still tell your story. And I think, but this is a time that will just give rise to newer pop culture ways of consuming content. See, we've had memes come when the Instagram first broke in, right? Now, if animation is the only way you do high quality, then that's something that will start coming in. We also spoke about big spectacle films. You spoke about Bahubali, and post the Avatar season really in the world, everything kind of changed. Now, Hollywood has been making many, many big spectacle films that way. They have like a couple of spectacle films releasing every few weeks, if you take the last few years. And most of that happens inside a studio. And I think as India, we've always been, as a film industry, we've always been self-sufficient. We've always been creating workflows of our own. If you see the workflow that we've built, I think we're the cheapest in the world that can execute something so large, but a workflow that's completely within our own, right? We can't afford. See, we can afford 100 crores for a film. We can't $100 million is a different scenario altogether, right? So I think within our costs, like how we've broken, the country has been doing great quality stuff at costs that are quarter the price or much lower than that. I think most visual effects companies and production houses will start looking that direction. And I think that'll be a great way to grow it forward. I think, and this time, see, like some times like this lead to opportunity that's very, very different. And we just got to find it and ensure it grows.
What will it take, Rana? Because yes, there is the liquidity crunch that many would talk about, or maybe there is liquidity, but people are fearful of deploying capital at this stage. So to be able to enhance your capabilities, you spoke about what you're doing in the studio, and visual effects is a part of what you do at Ramanaidu Studios as well. But I'm just wondering, holistically, do you think that India is going to pump in more towards that? Are these films, because these blockbuster films at this point in time, when you don't know when cinema halls are going to open, a lot of people may think perhaps it's not the right time to put in money into a big scale film, because you're not going to have cinema halls to put them out in. OTT is the way it's going, and perhaps they don't lend themselves to that kind of visual experience. Right. So is this the right time? And perhaps you can tell us what it will take to grow these businesses going from here.
See, one is right now the way we look at content is going to change very, very dramatically. There is properties that we will definitely make for theatrical. There will be properties that will go just to OTT. There will be something that will cross border, something that will probably remain an animation. So I think the way we look at content is going to change in terms of how we monetize that the IP. But in terms of when the theaters will open, when that comes back, I think that's for everybody to wait and watch. I think we have a more serious situation now that we're dealing with, and going to cinemas is not the first thing that's on anyone's mind. I think just health and safety is the first thing that needs to come in. But see, there is also a scenario which is post all of this, right? I'm saying there is, at some point there will be a vaccine, at some point things will get cleared, at some point life will go back in order. But if you just look at the benefits of what has happened to us in this time, large companies that are definitely IT based have gone work from home, right? So a lot more people will be spending times at home, and they'll be happiest to go out to movies and restaurants. When things are back, it's just going to be much better than what it was. So there's no office buildings that you'll have to go to come back, and especially you guys in Bombay, right? If you guys work from home, I think you guys will be doing wonders. That's the only problem I have in Bombay. I said every time I come to Bombay, it almost feels like safer to work from home, right? It's just commuting so much. So I think there'll be a lifestyle shift that we'll see as I'm saying post this safety, post all of it, there will definitely be a lifestyle change in terms of how we buy things and how we view things. Whether do we buy plastic, whether we don't buy plastic, whether we start being cautious about the food we eat, the way we eat it, the places we go to. I think it's going to change as a culture. And I think we just have to wait and watch. And as filmmakers and storytellers, we'll just keep supporting that.
So as a filmmaker, a storyteller, as an actor, how do you reckon your projects are likely to change going ahead? What are you reading? Because I know that you're going in for a film reading right after this.
Yes.
What are the kind of films that you're looking at? What are the scripts that you're getting? What kind of content are we likely to get in the near future?
See, one is I actually am kind of over ready for things right now. I have 2 films ready to release. I have one which is Hati Mere Saathi that's scheduled to release, a little bit of post, and that's pretty out. See, the reason we held back is that's a big theatrical experience, right? It's really shot in 3 languages, and you want the big spectacle to come back in. I have another film called Virata Parvam, which I have a week or 10 days of shoot left, and that will get back into cinemas when it's ready. So as theatrical properties, I have 2 large properties that are films that are ready, and the ones that are being developed, there is a lot of spectacle-based films that are now in the Hiranyakashyap that's being developed. There is Vartaman that's being developed. So I think I've used this time to develop a lot of stories. One from the Ashwadhama's lore, one from Hiranyakashyap, which is mythology. And I'm also associated with Tamar Chitrakatha, and that's been huge. It's been a huge treasure trove to kind of dig out and say, let's start building this whole universe. And because the studio is supporting all of this, we just start working with workflows that can be done, right? So we're finding projects that are, see, we're not making the Mahabharata fully. See, that's not, we're not getting there. I'm saying let's start picking properties that can be executed in this certain budget in this certain time, and that becomes the spectacle we make.
No, this is fantastic. It gives us an insight as to what to expect next. In terms of the projects that you are working towards, what would you say is the most exciting? What is the change that we should be looking forward to, anticipating? And whether it comes from the Southern film industry or Bollywood, where do you think people are willing to take bigger risks or have a better understanding of the pulse of the audience as it changes now in a post-COVID world?
See, I just feel as much as whatever content is happening right now, whether it's the way each of the industries are, see, they kind of react to that culture of that city or that state, right? Apart from that, I think what is going to really grow is there'll be a lot of filmmakers from India that will start making global content, which is very, very, I mean, it could be a Tamil show that is set in Madurai, but it'll be relevant to the rest of the world. I think that's the kind of material we'll start seeing grow because of the OTT that's kind of connected us. And that'll happen across industries, right? Whether it's Bengali, Marathi, Hindi, doesn't matter where they come from, because there'll be stories to be told and they're agnostic. They don't need a theater. They don't need any of those. So I think that's you'll see a huge rise in that. Then the second, I think once a bunch of us crack this whole method of making big films inside a studio completely and a lot of CG and visual effects control, I think that's the direction every filmmaker will head. And we will all be very proud in telling our stories. You will want to, a Marathi filmmaker will tell Shivaji story. Then there will be a Malayalam filmmaker who will tell Raja Martanda's story. So, and all of India's history and mythology leads to so much spectacle and scale. I think we'll be in a time to visually see all of that.
So business-wise, is this a good time to be in the entertainment industry? And what part of the business do you see growing the most, which is going to be the most rewarding, so to speak?
See, I mean, there is an old saying which was there from the 1930s that says content is king. And now I think it just is printed straight up. And I think that's the only way to go. You will see the relationship between audiences and talent and stars changing dramatically. The star will start getting closer and closer as a human being to people. There will be a huge rise in anybody creating intellectual property in terms of IPs and stories, right? And I think content creators will have it's that time. And entertainment, yes, obviously it's a great time to be in entertainment, and man needs to be entertained, and that's been the time from early man till as long as this generation lives. I think we just keep going.
Well, we wish you great luck. We don't expect anything less than the best from you, Rana, and congratulations on the engagement. We're looking forward to the wedding, hearing more about it as you get closer to the end of the year, because that's when the wedding is planned, isn't it?
No, it's actually in August. So
it's in August?
Right now. So it'll be small, simple, happy, and that's how it is.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. And this is all going to happen in the studio precincts, is it?
No, I mean, we're just reacting to how the world is and then start seeing how to get it done. I mean, right. There's obviously so many friends we can call, so many family we can call. It's all going to be little. So we just react to how the world is and then take it from there.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
All the very best, Rana. Thank you so much for talking to us on ET Now.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.